January 3rd, 2015, from Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was the Saturday night wildcard game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers as these two division rivals faced off for the third time. They faced off twice during the regular season, and now they are facing off in the second game of the wildcard weekend. The Steelers are the division champions in the AFC North, and the Ravens made it in as the wild card. And so Pittsburgh got the ball first in this game. They had it on their own 20 after the kickoff. They would bring the ball into Baltimore territory all the way down to the Baltimore 37. They actually got to the 34, but then Roethlisberger was sacked by Nada, and that would bring it back to the 37. And a couple plays later, out would come the punting unit. So they punted after 11 plays from the Baltimore 37 on their first possession. Now Baltimore would take over on their own 7-yard line after the punt with 8.5 still left in the first. And on their first possession, they would go 3 and out as they would end up punting from their own 11. So now Pittsburgh would take over after the punt on their own 40-yard line with about 7 minutes still left in the first quarter. They're faced with a 2nd and 2 from the 48, and Harris ran at 5 yards for the first down in Baltimore territory at the 47. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 42, big Ben Roethlisberger hit Martavis Bryant for a 22-yard reception. It was now a first down on the edge of the red zone for the Steelers on the Baltimore 20. But their drive ended up stalling when on 3rd and 11 from the 21, Roethlisberger was sacked by Elvis Dumervil, and so out came Shaun Suisham to attempt a 45-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and that put the first points on the scoreboard in this game with the score Pittsburgh 3, Baltimore 0. So now the Ravens would take over on their own 20 with about a minute and a half left in the first quarter, and a penalty for unnecessary roughness against the Steelers would make it a first down on the 35. Joe Flacco then went to Owen Daniels, and the tight end picked up 18 yards in the first down to Pittsburgh territory at the 47, and then Forsett ran 9 yards, and that brought the first quarter to a close. And so after one quarter of play, the score was Pittsburgh 3, Baltimore 0. So now to open up the second quarter, the Ravens had the ball on the Pittsburgh 38. It was 2nd and 1. They give it back to Forsett, and he picked up 2 yards in the first down at the 36. Joe Flacco then went back to the tight end, Owen Daniels. He picked up 10 yards in the first down on the 26. Then Forsett picked up 7 yards to make it 2nd and 3 from the 19, and they gave it back to Forsett. He picked up 14 yards on the ground. It was now 1st and goal on the 5. An incomplete pass would bring up 2nd down. They gave it to Pierce. Bernard Pierce punched it in from 5 yards out for the touchdown as the Ravens took the lead by 4 with the score Baltimore 7, Pittsburgh 3. So now the Steelers would get the ball with about 12 and a half left before halftime. They had it on their own 14 after the kickoff. And on first down, Roethlisberger went to Antonio Bryant. He picked up 18 yards in the first down at the 32. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 32, Big Ben went to Heath Miller, and the tight end picked up 30 yards. And it was now a first down for the Steelers in Baltimore territory at the 38. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 29, an incomplete pass would bring up 4th and 1 from the 29. They brought out the field goal unit, but Baltimore was penalized for having 12 men on the field, and so now it would be a first down. So instead of a field goal attempt, and that would have been a 44-yard attempt. Instead, it was a first down on the Baltimore 24 for the Steelers. Roethlisberger then went to Ben Tate. He picked up 5 yards, and an unnecessary roughness penalty against the Ravens would make it a 1st and goal on the 10. Roethlisberger was then sacked for a 9-yard loss by Williams, and now it was 2nd and 19. And then after picking up 3 yards of the pass to Antonio Brown, Roethlisberger went to Martavis Bryant. He picked up 12 yards, and that would make it 4th and goal on the 4, and they brought out Shaun Suisham to attempt a 22-yard chip shot. It was up, it was good, and now it was a 1-point game with the score Baltimore 7, Pittsburgh 6. So now the Ravens would take over on their own 20 after the kickoff with a little less than 6 minutes left before halftime. And on first down, Joe Flacco hit Steve Smith for a 23-yard reception. They made it a first down on the Baltimore 43. Then on 2nd and 6 from the 47, Forsett picked up 8 yards and an unnecessary roughness penalty against the Steelers as they kept picking up unnecessary roughness penalties against them. But now it's a first down on the Pittsburgh 30 for the Ravens. They're then faced with a 3rd and 10 from the 30. Joe Flacco out of the shotgun, drops back, and he had Owen Daniels for a 19-yard reception. The tight end picked up the first down on the Pittsburgh 11. but they weren't able to get another first down. And on 4th and 9 from the 10, out would come Justin Tucker to attempt a 28-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Ravens extended their lead back to 4 with the score Baltimore 10, Pittsburgh 6. So now the Pittsburgh Steelers will take over after the kickoff on their own 18 with less than 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Roethlisberger went to Heath Miller for an 11-yard reception and made a first down on the 29. Then out of the no huddle in the shotgun, Roethlisberger went to Bryant. He picked up 14, and that made a first down on the 43 as this game went to the 2-minute warning. Then coming out of the 2-minute warning, Roethlisberger went to Archery, picked up 7. Then out of the no huddle, Roethlisberger went to Darius Hayward-Bay. He picked up 6 yards and a first down at the Baltimore 44. So now Pittsburgh took a timeout with a minute and a half left in the first half. They had a first down on the 44. And on 1st and 10, Roethlisberger went to Wheaton. He picked up 11 yards and a first down at the Baltimore 33. But they weren't able to get another first down, and they would bring out Shaun Suisham out to attempt a 47-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. And now it was back to a 1-point game with the score Baltimore 10, Pittsburgh 9. So now the Steelers would kick the ball off to the Ravens, and Joe Flacco would end up taking a knee, and this game went to halftime. So after one half of play, it was a 1-point game with the score Baltimore 10, Pittsburgh 9. So now to open up the second half, the Ravens would get the ball first. They had it on their own 16 after the kickoff. They were then faced with a 3rd and 14 from the 12. And Joe Flacco hit Torrey Smith for a 17-yard reception. It was now a first down on the 29. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 37, there was a penalty against the defense for pass interference, and now it would be a first down on the Pittsburgh 31 for the Ravens. Joe Flacco then dropped back to pass, and he was sacked by Spence. He forced the fumble, but Baltimore recovered, and now it would be 2nd and 23 from the 44. They picked up 3 yards on a pass to Jones, from Flacco to Jones. On 3rd and 20 from the 41, Joe Flacco out of the shotgun hit Steve Smith. He picked up 14, but he'd be shy of the first down, so out would come Justin Tucker to attempt a 45-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and that extended the Ravens' lead back to 4 with the score Baltimore 13, Pittsburgh 9. So now the Steelers would take over on their own 20 after the kickoff with about 10 minutes left in the third. But after 5 plays, they would end up punting from their own 32. So after the punt, the Ravens would take over on their own 31 with about 7.5 minutes still left in the third quarter. Joe Flacco drops back to passing at Steve Smith for a 40-yard reception. It was now a first down in Pittsburgh territory at the 29. Then on 2nd and 4 from the 23, Joe Flacco hit Juszczyk for a 9-yard reception and a first down in the red zone at the 14. He then scrambled for 5, and on 2nd and 5 from the 9, Forsett lost a pair. So now it would be 3rd and 7 from the 11. Out of the shotgun, Joe Flacco drops back, and he hit Torrey Smith for the 11-yard touchdown pass. And now it was an 11-point lead for the Ravens with the score Baltimore 20, Pittsburgh 9. So now the Steelers would get the ball with about 4 minutes left in the third. They had on their own 21 after the kickoff. Roethlisberger went to Wheaton. He picked up 12 yards in the first down at the Pittsburgh 33. They were then faced with a 4th and 1 from the 42. And they ended up picking up 3 yards as they elected to go for it. Johnson got the 3 yards on the ground, and now it would be a first down on the 45. They'd then be faced with a 3rd and 8 from the 47. And Roethlisberger out of the shotgun drops back, and he was sacked by Elvis Dumervil. Dumervil dropped him for a loss of 12 to bring him back to the Pittsburgh 35 and bring the third quarter to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Baltimore 20, Pittsburgh 9. So now to begin the fourth quarter, it was 4th and 20 from the Pittsburgh 35 for the Steelers, and they would punt the ball. And now the Ravens would take over on their own 17-yard line with less than 10 seconds ticked off the clock in the fourth quarter. And they would end up bringing the ball to midfield. And on 1st and 10 from the 47, Justin Forsett fumbled the ball, and it was recovered by Tuitt. It was a crazy play. The Steelers just swarmed all around, and they were actually pulling Forsett away from the ball. They ended up getting it, and now the offense would take over on the Baltimore 45. And Ben Roethlisberger hit Antonio Bryant for a 45-yard touchdown, but then they ended up challenging the play. Baltimore challenged, and after review, they ruled that his knee was down on the 1-yard line, so it was a 44-yard reception for the first down that set up 1st and goal on the 1. They then got a false start penalty, so that pushed him back to the 6. So now it's 1st and goal from the 6. Big Ben dropped back, and he hit Bryant for a 6-yard touchdown. Made a great catch in the end zone, and now they went for the 2-point conversion, and they failed. Roethlisberger tried to throw the ball and ended up being intercepted by Elam in the end zone on the 2-point conversion. And so now it's a 5-point game as they cut the lead, and so now it's Baltimore 20, Pittsburgh 15. So now the Ravens would get the ball after the kickoff on their own 37. There was actually an unnecessary roughness against the Steelers that would be tacked on. So with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Ravens had the ball. They'd end up faced with a 3rd and 13 from the 34. Joe Flacco dropped back and he hit the tight end Owen Daniels for a 23-yard reception. It was now a first down in Pittsburgh territory at the 43. They ended up faced with a 3rd and 1, and an incomplete pass would bring out Justin Tucker to attempt a 52-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good, and now the Ravens had extended their lead to 8 points with the score Baltimore 23, Pittsburgh 15. So now they would kick the ball off to the Steelers, and Pittsburgh would have it on their own 20 with less than 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They were then faced with a 3rd and 4 from the 26. Roethlisberger dropped back to pass. He was intercepted by Terrell Suggs, and Suggs made an amazing catch as he had the ball in between his legs. He did like a roll on the ground. Somehow he was able to keep it from touching the ground, and he pulled it in for the interception. And it was actually challenged, but it was ruled that yes, it was an interception. It did not touch the ground. And so now Baltimore would take over on the Pittsburgh 21 with 8 minutes left in the fourth. Joe Flacco drops back to pass, and he hit the tight end Gillmore for a 21-yard touchdown. And now the Ravens led by 15 with the score Baltimore 30, Pittsburgh 15. So now Pittsburgh would get the ball with a little less than 8 minutes on the clock in the fourth, down by 2 scores. They had on their own 20. They would end up bringing the ball up to midfield and into Baltimore territory. It was 1st and 10 from the 41. Roethlisberger ended up scrambling for 16 yards to bring it to the 25. And then on 2nd and 4 from the 19, Roethlisberger hit Archer for a 19-yard touchdown, but ended up being nullified because of an offensive holding penalty. So now it would be 2nd and 14 instead of a touchdown. And they had the ball backed up to the 29. Roethlisberger out of the shotgun. He's sacked by Upshaw. Upshaw dropped him for a 7-yard loss, and Roethlisberger ended up having to come out of the game. So now Brad Gradkowski would end up coming out under center for the Steelers. It was 3rd and 21 from the Baltimore 36. Out of the shotgun, Gradkowski finds Heath Miller. The tight end picked up 18 yards, and now it was 4th and 3 on the 18. They're in the red zone, down by 2 touchdowns, and they needed a 2-point conversion as well because they were down by 15, and so a field goal really wouldn't do them any good as there was under 4 minutes left to play. They decided to go for it, and out of the shotgun, Gradkowski finds Antonio Bryant for a 4-yard reception, a first down at the 14. And now Gradkowski threw an incomplete pass. He tried to go to the end zone, but it was incomplete. So now it's 2nd and 10 from the 14. They bring Big Ben Roethlisberger back in the game, and he goes for the end zone. He's intercepted by Stewart. So Stewart intercepts Big Ben on his first play back after he missed 3 plays, after he was knocked out on that sack. He comes back in. Gradkowski somehow got him that first down, but they bring Roethlisberger back in. He throws the interception, and now Baltimore would take over on their own 20 after the touchback. There's less than 3 minutes left. They gave it to Forsett. He picked up a yard on consecutive plays and then no gain on 3rd and 8. And so out would come the punting unit on 4th and 8 from the 22 coming out of the 2-minute warning. And the punt was blocked. It was blocked by Thomas, and it went out of bounds for the safety. So Pittsburgh gets 2 points, and it was now Baltimore 30, Pittsburgh 17. But there was less than 2 minutes left to play, and now the Ravens would punt the ball after the safety, and Pittsburgh would take over on their own 31. And on first down, they got a offensive pass interference call. And so now that would back him up 10 yards. 1st and 20 from the 21. Roethlisberger went to Wheaton. He picked up 17 yards to bring it to the 38. 2nd and 3. Incomplete pass on the next 2 downs would bring up 4th and 3 from the 38. They had to go for it out of the no huddle in the shotgun. Roethlisberger finds Heath Miller. He picks up 7 yards, but then he fumbles it. Recovered by Stewart. So after getting that interception, Stewart recovers the fumble. And it was Smith that caused the fumble, and now the Ravens would take over at the Pittsburgh 45 with less than a minute left. Flacco took a knee. Pittsburgh used their final timeout, and all that was left was for Flacco to take 2 more knees, and this game came to a close as the Baltimore Ravens defeat their division rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the wildcard game to advance to the division round with the final score, Baltimore 30, Pittsburgh 17. And before this game, during the regular season, they had split the season series, and each team had won their home game. So Pittsburgh had won in Pittsburgh, Baltimore had won in Baltimore, and this is the first time that the road team wins between these two teams this year in their third matchup. And the Ravens are now 10-6. Well, they were 10-6. That would be their 11th win of the season. And the Steelers are now, this is their 6th loss after going 11-5. But their season is over. They were the number 3 seeds. They were the AFC North champions. But the number 6 seeded Baltimore Ravens are moving on, and they will be facing the New England Patriots next Saturday. And that'll be in Foxborough at 4 o'clock. That'll be the 4 o'clock game. But in this game, Joe Flacco was 18 for 29 for 259 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 8 yards off of 8 carries on the ground. Big Ben Roethlisberger was 31 for 45. He had 334 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He had 2 carries for 16 yards. And he was actually sacked 5 times. Just jumping ahead there, but he was under pressure. They were getting to him. They were dropping him. And you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. The leading rusher in this game was Justin Forsett with 16 carries for 36 yards. And the leading rusher for Pittsburgh was Josh Harris. He had 9 carries for 25 yards. So not really much rushing in the game. But the leading receiver was Antonio Bryant. He had 117 yards off of 9 receptions for the Steelers. And the leading receiver for Baltimore was Steve Smith. He had 5 receptions for 101 yards. And Owen Daniels, the tight end, had 4 receptions for 70 yards. And Heath Miller over on the Pittsburgh side had 6 receptions for 76 yards. Wheaton had 5 receptions for 66 yards. And Bryant had 5 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. The leading tackler in this game was for the Baltimore Ravens. Darryl Smith had 10 tackles in this game. The rookie C.J. Mosley had 9 tackles in this game. Ladarius Webb had 8 tackles. Suggs and Stewart each had interceptions in this game. And Suggs had 6 tackles. He also had 1 tackle for a loss. Elvis Dumervil had 3 tackles. He had 2 sacks. He was just all over Roethlisberger. And also Brandon Williams had 6 tackles and he had 1 sack as well. And then Hatoli Nada had a sack and a couple tackles, and Courtney Upshaw also had a couple tackles and a sack. They combined for 5, as I said earlier. The Steelers only had 1 sack in this game, and that lone was Shaun Spence, who had that lone sack. And their leading tackler was Troy Polamalu, who had 8 tackles in the game. And Lawrence Timmons had 7 tackles. And they did not intercept Joe Flacco at all, as Flacco came through big time for the Ravens, and their defense came up big as well. And the Ravens, they actually in that third quarter, they shut out the Steelers and they put up 10 points. They went into the fourth up by 11. The Steelers made it interesting. They pulled within 5, but then they scored another 10 points before letting up that safety. So Baltimore advances to the next round. As I said, they'll be facing the Patriots next Saturday. The final score in this game, Baltimore 30, Pittsburgh 17.